Is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 170. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him He's sitting here midweek, Austin, Texas, gearing up for our return to Q2 Stadium this Saturday against Vancouver Whitecaps. But I'll start, as we always do, by asking you, how you feeling, my friend?
A little self-conscious now, man. You know, our buddy Acid Bath points out some of my body hair on the good old victory song video, and now I think we got to get a new laying down picture. I don't know what I got to do No, I joke, I kid. I'm doing well, man. I'm super excited for this game. I'm ready for it. This is the heat of the season right here. This is everything we've been hoping for. We're in the hunt. We're in the chase, and the chase is on right now. We got a good team coming to town, a team I think that we can beat, though. So I am super ready and super excited to be back at the Q this coming weekend.
Yeah, I think one thing you left out I thought was kind of funny. So my nose hair trimmer broke like 2 months ago. And as soon as that comment came across about your nose hair, boom, Amazon, give me a nose hair trimmer. So if you see us at the Q, don't hesitate to comment. I think we're both going to be cleaned up nicely, you know.
we're going to be looking good.
You're lucky I didn't even bring up your struggles opening boxes of Goldfish on Sunday.
Go ahead. Get it off your chest. Apparently, you want to talk about it. Get it off your chest. Go ahead.
I just think it's ridiculous because both of us, big fans of Goldfish crackers, right? Like, hands down, one of our top snacks.
Yeah.
So because of this, I buy those, the big bulk boxes of cheddar Goldfish. And Saturday night was not the first time that you have failed to open those correctly. Even to the point where I was thinking about, while I was working out on Friday, Ian's coming over tomorrow. I have a new Goldfish box. I'm going to put the old one that's empty in front of it as a decoy for him on Saturday night, and then finish the workout. Forgot to. And sure enough, the end of our fantasy football draft on Saturday night, I go to the pantry, and what do I find but the brand new Goldfish box opened at both ends. So, we've got things to work on here in the North End. Nose hair, Goldfish boxes.
Man.
We move.
Apparently it's just shit on Ian day.
Yeah. We can extend that to a week. I'm down for that. It's fantasy football season. It's, the barbs are flying in the group chats.
That's true. It's active.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into episode 170. We'll preview this match against Vancouver Whitecaps. We'll clean up a couple pieces of Austin FC news. We will crown our 2024 North End Podcast Leagues Cup bracket champion. That person will be receiving an armadillo kit. And then we'll finish up this episode with the nonsense. But before we jump into today's episode, just want to remind you all, listening or watching, that the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio version of this episode wherever you get your podcast. If wherever you get your podcast has that little switch, you can toggle on auto download this show. You can do that and support the show without thinking about it further. If you want to go the extra mile, you can rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on those platforms. And if you're watching on the YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That also helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that like button. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the hygiene of the North End. A couple pieces of news before we talk Whitecaps here. And I guess it's really all pieces of the same news. International break coming up next weekend. So we do have a handful, a serious handful of players going out here. First, Danny Pereira, called up to the Venezuelan national team. And those, to me, looking through all of these competitions, those games seem like the most important, or that maybe the biggest stage is a better way to put it. World Cup qualifiers against Bolivia on September 5th and Uruguay on September 10th. So congrats again to Danny. I know as long as he remains in an Austin FC uniform, I imagine we will be congratulating him on call-ups multiple times a year for the foreseeable future. But World Cup qualifiers, like if there is a way for me to watch these next week, I'm definitely tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, we're always happy for him, but just not tight, you know? I'm all excited about the playoff race here. I understand there's some important stuff going on, though. But yes, congrats to Danny for sure.
Yeah. Well, and this, this international schedule could come into play for that Toronto match in 2.5 weeks. We'll keep going here, though. Alexander Svatok called up to the Ukrainian national team. This is actually the one of these 5 call-ups that I have not seen the team explicitly celebrate on social media as of yet. I may have missed it. I don't think I did a quick spin again before we hit record here today. He is listed as a reserve, of course, for these international competitions, 26-man rosters, and then I think 5 or 6 reserve players. So he may not be going overseas, even though he's listed as a reserve there. But for what it's worth, Nations League games, their group stage, I believe, Ukraine takes on Albania on the 7th, Czech Republic on the 10th. Leo Väisänen also called up to the Finland national team, also Nations League games, group stage games against Greece on the 7th and England on the 10th. And then the final Nations League call-up, Julio Cascante called up to Los Ticos, Costa Rica, taking on Guadeloupe and Guatemala in their Nations League group stage games. And then FC2, it was between FC2 and FC2 there. Yeah. Our boy Bobo Sibra called up to the Ugandan national team AFCON qualifiers, taking on South Africa and Congo. And so, again, congrats to all of those guys. And I am just sitting here, fingers crossed, knocking on wood, that we all make it out of this healthy.
Yeah, indeed. So what we're anticipating here is we're probably going to be without Danny, Leo, and who was the other one? Not
Julio.
But we probably will have Svatok.
I think we will only miss one of these guys for the first team, because the 14th, if I recall correctly, is that Toronto match. And double check that here now. We have the technology. Saturday, September 14th. That is north of the border, but if you look at those games I just read off, or the game schedule rather, Svatok last game on the 10th, Danny last game on the 10th, Julio on the 9th, Leo on the 10th. Right, so you're getting Monday and Tuesday games in there. It's not ideal for a Saturday game, but I think the conventional wisdom is kind of when you have more than 72 hours, most players can recover to full fitness after that. And this ties into the Vancouver game that we're going to talk about here in a moment. When we played Vancouver back in early May, Danny was not able to travel with the team, which is, again, we talked about it at the time, kind of interesting because he had that special work visa for the 2022 trip up to Vancouver, played in that match. Also, of course, played in the Montreal match that year when he got tossed. And then just it might be it might have to do with, we know that he's still going through the paperwork to get his green card here, not off an international roster slot yet. So potentially because he's now, in the middle of that process, how I understand it. Again, we need to get Football Critic on here to give us the full paperwork update. I am right now forecasting that we will not have Danny, regardless of international call-ups or anything, for that Toronto match, just because he was not able to go to Vancouver 3.5 months ago. But I would be ecstatic to be wrong about that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Okay, stay healthy, boys.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk Vancouver coming to town Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. scheduled kick. Maybe more like 7:40 in there, right, for the Apple TV. But excited to be back at Q2 Stadium. The Whitecaps actually played last night. Canadian Championship semifinal, which was a 2-leg semi. This was the second leg. Vancouver came into that match with the 1-0 lead on aggregate. This one was at BC Place. So they come out, they run pretty much a first choice lineup here with respect to a couple injuries that they had, most notably Tristan Blackman. They also sat Yohei Takaoka, their starting goalkeeper, down in favor of a backup. But you did get the return of Ryan Gauld, who had been out injured slightly over a month. And of course, right, the guy they dubbed years ago the Scottish Messi, the key to this Vancouver offensive engine, a very potent front line here in terms of those counting stats. But Ryan Gauld, in his return, scores in the 11th minute. They sit on that lead and see it out 2-0 on aggregate, so they will advance to the final. I believe the second leg on the other semifinal is tonight, if I recall correctly. Toronto and another lower level team there in Canada. So Vancouver has advanced, but they did not do so unscathed. Brian White goes down, which from what I read was a pretty scary collision. I also read through these, searching for news on this team, that Brian White has a history of head injuries in his career. So a couple comments seem to indicate that he may have been knocked out cold for a few moments there last night. They were able to get him up off the pitch. I believe he walked off under his own power. But you get concussed on a Tuesday night, you're probably not playing Saturday. So I do wish Brian White a full recovery, but on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something you want to see, especially if somebody's been dealing with multiple head traumas and injuries like that. So wishing the best for him. Absolutely. Does this help us on the pitch? Absolutely. When you pair him with a healthy Gauld, it is one of the most potent 1-2 combinations in this league. You throw Fafa in there as well, and you're just looking at a trio of players who can really light the net up. So I wish him a speedy recovery, but with you as well on Sunday, 100% back.
Yeah. And pulling up our little preview here for the YouTube viewers. Prior to that match last night against Pacific FC, Vancouver had been off for about 3 weeks. They advanced in their Leagues Cup group that you'll remember, right? We were paying very close attention to that group because that Vancouver and Tijuana match determined who we were going to play in the round of 32. They ended up getting matched up with Pumas. So it maybe wasn't just us, right, that had a little bit of an unfortunate matchup there in the round of 32, because Pumas came in very motivated, got the win there 2-0 to advance to the round of 16. So Vancouver, they were scheduled to return to MLS play when we were last Saturday, but their opponent, LAFC, obviously was preparing for the Leagues Cup final, which they perished in at the hands of Columbus. So Vancouver, the return to MLS play will be this Saturday. They got that little warm up last night. And again, I think Austin, this is almost a pick'em in Vegas in terms of the betting lines. I think Austin is certainly a favorite here, and I'm not sure that the betting market has caught up with Austin's new additions. Because man, I understand what Vancouver brings to the table, especially offensively, and we can keep talking about that here in a minute. But with the way Austin has looked since Bukhari and Dessler hit the field, it's just a different team. It's improved, and to what degree we can debate, but there's no way that you can say that this Austin team isn't a bigger threat, really, on both sides of the ball with these guys in.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth there. I was going to say we're a completely different team, particularly from when we matched up with this Whitecaps team earlier this season. I don't know if you have, what'd you say? We got 5 different.
Oh, I got the numbers.
Okay, yeah. I'm just trying to set you up there, but I don't think Vegas has caught up. I don't think they understand and see and know what the how different it has looked from where we were when we were getting those type of lines at home where we're huge dogs and everything till this point in time. And that's not to disrespect the Whitecaps, but if they're without Gald, then I mean, punch for punch, we have just as much firepower up front that they do, in my opinion, if we're playing Seba at that false nine there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But again, speaking of that front line, right, and just how good they have been this year, let's put it in this context here, right? Because again, we are a different team, but all we have is the numbers, the results so far this season to stack these clubs up against each other. So Brian White, whether he plays or not, 12 goals, 2 assists up there at the 9 for Vancouver. If you look at Ryan Gauld here, right, we can pull up their full stats. 9-9. Okay, so that's not too bad. And then Fafa 8-4. So we tally those together, 29 goals between White, Gauld, and Fafa. Austin FC as a team, 30 goals this season. And let's note, Vancouver, 2 games in hand on Austin FC. So again, just to illustrate numbers-wise how dangerous this attacking front is for Vancouver, very lethal, at least compared to what Austin has been able to put out there this season.
Yeah, I mean, that really puts it in perspective on both sides, where how anemic we've been offensively for the majority of the season and how much firepower they actually have up there north of the border.
Yeah, so it wasn't just Gauld that came back last night, though. Matthias Laborda, Tristan Blackman have also been absent of late. Laborda actually got the start, I believe, played the full 90, so got him listed probable on the injury report here because we haven't had an official Whitecaps injury report for about a month now. Tristan Blackman did come in and play off the bench. Again, usually he is paired with Veselinovic there as their center back pairing. Although I will say, I think more often than not, you're going to see Coach Sartini here, Vanni Sartini, who's one of my favorite characters in terms of the coaches around this league. I believe they run a 3 center back look more often than not. But again, Blackman, the point of that, Blackman, pretty much a game in, game out starter when he's been healthy. Mentioned the Brian White injury, probably Damir Krylak, the veteran 35-year-old, former captain, right, for RSL for many years, still a quality player. I imagine he gets the start in place of White if he's not able to go. I wouldn't expect 90 plus minutes out of a guy like Krylak at his age. And it's certainly a significant downgrade. And I think this is a downgrade in obviously just the overall talent when you lose somebody like Brian White. But if you take a look here, where's our player stats? We've got our aerial duels here. And this is also a nice way to work in how ridiculous Christian Benteke is. You mentioned, you compared Sebastian Pignot to Benteke in the air last episode. Aerial duels, okay? Christian Benteke, 327 aerial duels this season. Second place, Rafa Navajo there for Colorado, 145. Okay, so just to illustrate how impressive, amazing, incredible Benteke is as an attacking option, even at this point of his career in MLS. He actually just signed a contract extension through next season, I believe, today. So Benteke hanging around in DC. Let's get back on track here. Aerial duels, Brian White tied for 6th, 107 aerial duels. And when we take a look at the set piece expected goals for the Whitecaps this season, 4th in the league. So I do think that Brian White's presence, alongside some of those center backs, right, in Blackman and Veselinovic and Utvik, right, where we saw him last time out with the helmet on there, concussion helmet. I think that does take a little bit of the bite out of their how deadly they've been on set pieces this season. And again, it's a welcome sight. We will take any break we can get down the stretch here.
Absolutely. This is actually a team that I get to catch quite a bit of because they're on so much later, usually on the schedule. So I'm pretty well versed with the Whitecaps here. I've touted them for a while. I always think that they're one of the more talented teams in the Western Conference since we've been introduced to this league, and their set piece stuff is crisp. And Brian White he's just got that it factor in regard to finding the ball, getting to it, and finding a way to put it in the back of the net. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. You look at this first matchup between these two teams earlier in the season. I don't think this game looks anything like that one. It was a 0-0 draw. We were thoroughly outshot, outplayed. We had a scuffle at halftime with Seba and Bearhalter a little bit there. You had the potential PK that Fafa drew. There was a bunch of ire about that. So, like, it was an ugly, ugly game, and that was how we needed to go ahead and get points on the road here. But here at home, in the heat, them off the turf, being a bit dinged up, even though they are returning some of those routine starters back into the lineup, I just think this game is going to look completely different. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think Dessler will be matched up with Fafa, right?
You would think so on that left side.
Yes. So I like that. That is another wrinkle here that is going our way. I know you want to talk a little bit about some possession figures and their efficiency in regard to converting high turnovers into actual goals.
Yeah, man. Because those numbers are pretty impressive. I mean, and you bring up that game back in May, right? I think I'm right there with you. In terms of we're going to see a different. It's not going to be like a mirror image in terms of the opposite result here, but we conceded 65% possession to the Whitecaps in that game. And the Whitecaps are a team that do not really want to have the ball. They're 23rd in the league in possession, averaging 47% per game. The one thing I think that won't translate, I don't think either team will have a 24-4 advantage in shots as Vancouver did in that game. Again, we've seen, I believe, 7 clean sheets from Austin this season. I think 5 of them now coming on the road. And really just that Nashville game that we just saw was the only one that didn't follow this type of game script, right? Where we're just letting the other team have the ball. We're going to block a ton of these shots that they're taking from far, outside of the box, these low probability chances. And again, a win here. We've only got one win in our club's history against Vancouver. It did come at Q2 Stadium in April of 2022. And just going back through those memories early in that season, that was a nice bounce back performance because that game came just 4 days after we got upset by San Antonio in the Open Cup. Came out early, Maxi Urruti brace. Seba puts the icing on the cake, 3-0 victory in that one. But again, just one win against this team in 7 tries. We've got 4 losses and 2 draws, but a win, a draw, and a loss against this team at Q2. Again, I think it's going to be a win here on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And also, I think another advantage, another big difference that going back to like looking at these Vegas lines as you and I like to do, Vancouver didn't really do much to improve. They did waive Javane Brown, who wasn't getting a ton of time with them. And they did sign Edier Ocampo, who was purchased from Atlético Nacional in the Colombian top flight. He will be a U22 initiative player. Was not in the team last night against Pacific. But Ocampo, 20-year-old fullback, apparently can play kind of that wing back position, right? Turns 21 in October. 75 top division appearances with Atlético Nacional, 3 goals, 7 assists. He's represented Colombia at U19, U20, and U23 levels, including playing at the U20 South American Championships and the U20 World Cup. So it's not like Vancouver did nothing. Mm-hmm. But what I believe is happening here in terms of his absence last night, I don't think his paperwork is done yet, which again, another point to Roto is getting those signings in early. So even if we didn't get the last minute 1 or 2 guys in here, all 3 of our guys have been cleared to play for a while now. So I don't think we see Ocampo on Saturday, but just to note what they did do in that transfer window. We talked about their set piece XG, their possession numbers, and you kind of hinted at earlier, right? Some of the high turnover metrics that we like to talk about in terms of how much pressure an opponent is going to put on Austin, especially given how much we struggle traditionally with teams that like to employ that high press. We're in luck here. Again, like talking about how we could see this game shift from the game script that we saw back in May.
Yep.
I think this is a game that Austin FC might end up with 55, 60, low 60s in terms of possession. Of course, assuming a neutral game script, right? You go up a goal or two, Vancouver's going to have the ball a little bit more. But Vancouver, right, not a team that high presses. They're just 27th in high turnovers. They still have 33 more high turnovers created than Austin. We're still last, even after last week, 122. But they've been the most efficient team in the league in terms of those goal-ending high turnovers. We talked about last week when we were previewing the Nashville match. Both Nashville and Austin, the two bottom teams in this metric, and both have 2 goal-ending high turnovers. Vancouver, in 27th, has 7, which is second in MLS. Again, the most efficient team in transition off those high turnovers. But when they do have the ball, they're very similar to Austin. They are actually tied with Austin in direct speed, right? Which is a measure, meters per second, in terms of how quickly you progress the ball up the field. Tied for 25th in the league with Austin. So again, I think you've got to really watch this team on the counter, Brian White or not. And Brian White or not, they have proven to be very, very deadly on set pieces. So those are some of the things that we're looking for here on Saturday. Unless you have anything else to add on Vancouver, we can talk more about us here. And maybe talk about – go ahead.
Talk a little bit about their defensive shape with those 3 center backs that they'd like to employ. And, like, again, you look at the contrast between what this Austin FC team was before when we played them and what this team is now. That is a lot of ground to have to cover when you're talking about a threat like Bukuri on the wing and potentially Hot Air or Johnny on the other side. Like, this is a completely new attack that we're looking at for Austin FC. I mean, Vancouver's kind of like an LAFC light almost in the way that they want to get up and go, and they want to counter you, and they want to get Fafa out into space. They want to get Gold out into space, and they want to catch you off like that. But I think now when you see that type of talent that we have, particularly on that right side of the field with Dessler and the Bukuri pairing, this is an opportunity to be able to hit them on the counter when they come at us, because I do think that we are going to be in control possession in this game. And also, you know, one thing that because we keep bringing up these high turnover metrics and everything like that, because it has been the Achilles heel for this Austin team for such a long time. But now with this false 9 Seba, I just don't know how much different it's going to look for the opposing teams to have to account for the fact that he is up there, but can also kind of drop back into that space. And now, like you said, we're pushing Guilherme and Dessler up on the wings and kind of getting tighter by dropping Danny back into space. So I'm interested to see what it looks like versus high presses now. Obviously, this team's not going to do it a ton, but to be able to recover is going to be the key, because we are going to turn the ball over against this team. It's just going to happen. I understand that, particularly if we are more in possession throughout the course of this game. So the recovery rate, I don't think Danny has to cover as much ground if he's back. You know what I mean? So I think the opportunity to be able to hit them on the counter up the wing will be present throughout the course of this game. Just to talk a little bit more about their offense as well. I think they have the most accurate crosses per 90 in the league right now. So just they're efficient in what they do. And it's just going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on in regard to making sure that we're not letting them get out into space too much.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And like you bring up Osman, right? Like, which one of these center backs is going to keep up with them?
Exactly.
And I know we could say that about most teams, but like a lot of the top teams, like you'll see some of those fullbacks who are high level, right? And are able to keep up, or at least try to stymie some of those top wing talents in this league. And just Vancouver does not profile, their backline does not profile like that to me. We're looking at on the YouTube here, the lineups from last game. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, E. If we start, and I don't really see much, I would like to see this same lineup that we've seen over the last 2 games. I know you do as well. If we run that team out there, 5 of the 10 field players from this match in May will be different. And only 3 of the 10 will be playing in the positions they played in that match, right? If you've got Driussi up at that false 9, he was in the midfield last time we played them. John Gallagher, last time we played them, was playing right back, or at least that's where he started, right? The other 3, Ring in the midfield, Biru on the left, Heinzike at center back. We also, We had Hader out there, which again, Hader could start. I would have no issue with that. I would be surprised if we don't see him get a couple starts opposite Osman down the stretch here. We had Rubio up top. We were starting freaking Bragoni. Valencia was in the midfield, right? And Julio there at center back. So just for what we're expecting for this 11, this is not just because of Bukhari and Dessler, but it's a totally different starting lineup.
Yep. And like I said, it is that is a big responsibility for these defenders and how they like to play their style. So, man, it's just night and day looking at that 11 and knowing what we're going to roll out here. I'm with you there on the lineup, not just because I personally wanted it, but because it's looked good. And I've liked the way that the shape has looked. I like the way that it's grown. I think there's new wrinkles in this offense that teams have not had to account for before, outside of just the talent level being raised, but actual formational stuff that has changed with Austin here. So I'm feeling good about this game, man. I know I said, and I've been preaching it, that these first 3 games I thought were all very winnable. I don't know how confident I would be if they were 100% Brian White as well, and we were up there, but that's not the case. We're going to be down here. It's going to be hot, and I expect a hungry Austin FC side.
I want to talk about this group of 3 games, right? Because us and I think everybody else, every other Austin FC fan knows how big these first 3 games are out of our 9-game home stretch here. And I know you went on record multiple times saying that we need all 9 points here to really reach our goals, or certainly to give yourself a chance at that 7 seed. And I hinted at on Sunday that I think we can get 6 or 7 here and still be fine. Because I'll make my case first here. And again, I would love to get all 9. That would be fantastic. And that would probably put me at a point where I'm saying we'd really have to try to screw this up to not get to 45 points if they're able to win these 3 games right in a row here. But the fact that we still have these 4 home games, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, again, in that hunt for 45 points. Because if you win your 4 home games, we're on, 46 points then. And that gets us over that hump, because 45, in all likelihood, is getting you that 9 seed at the very least.
Yep.
So, to me, we control our own destiny. And I don't see any real ass kickers coming to our place. These are all teams that I think, with the current overall health of the team, the new additions, I think all 4 of these games are extremely winnable. Vancouver, then Houston, then RSL and Colorado. And I know those last 2 are higher in the standings, and RSL is no joke no matter where we're playing. But again, I think, again, the wiggle room is on the road for me. And so that's why I'm not overly upset if we don't get a win against Toronto in 2 weeks, but that's contingent on winning this weekend, right?
Okay.
You have to get 6 of these first 9. And so to me, defending home turf, this is, of course, these guys are taking it 1 game at a time with that, playoff start now type of mentality. But just trying to look at it from a wide view and trying to keep myself grounded a little bit and not freaking out if we don't get the result out there in Toronto. But again, it all comes back to getting this win at home. Defending home turf that's where you're going to make the playoffs here, right?
Yep.
We're not going to lose out at home, but all of a sudden become these road warriors. Like, that seems pretty far-fetched to me.
Absolutely. Like we talked about on the prediction show with those Verde Pendant boys, I just think all 3 of these games, and well, now 2, because we have checked one off the box. One is out of the way. We got the win there. I think these next 2 games are just really, really winnable games. And then you just pretty much are locking yourself in to being able to find a way to get 3 points out of those next 6 matchups. In my opinion, you look at teams like LAFC, you look at teams like the Galaxy now with Royce in town. I just can't find a way that we're going to secure more than potentially 1 point. Versus both of them, I'm on record saying I don't think Colorado's very good. I think they're fraudulent. So, if you can win these next 2 matchups versus these Canadian teams here, I just think you have done the legwork that is necessary. Obviously, the job would not be finished, and I also would not be panicking if we don't get 3 in Toronto. But again, I've shit on the Eastern Conference the entire season. So like when I'm going to back that up and stand on that and be like, we have to beat these Eastern Conference teams because I don't think they're on our level. So, the most important game is the next one up. This is the mentality you have to have for this club right now. We are in playoff mode. And I think that's great because you just look at the timeline for this team and where we're at now in regard to the level of play out on the field. Have we looked better at all throughout the course of the season? We had that nice little stretch run there. We pumped up to third, but there's a pretty good amount of.
There was luck in there.
That's what I was going to say. It was a pretty good amount of very fortunate results for us to go into play there. You're coming off. I know you said it on the last episode where it was like, oh, we keep bringing up the Leagues Cup shit. Well, I'm going to keep bringing it up because it's two of the most signature wins in team history. So you package that in with how this team has looked. Even with the 2-0 loss to LAFC, then you just have to be feeling good about your chances right now. I'm all in on it, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We got to take care of business versus Whitecaps team in a very, very winnable game. So, if you're ready to put some predictions up, we can do it.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. And again, we've got 2 weeks between this Vancouver match and that Toronto match. And I imagine you can kind of segment it if you're the coaching staff, where we have these first 2 games, then a break, right? Then you got a double game week, and then you got another double game week. So almost 2-3-3, another break, and then decision day. So coming out of this first 2 with 6 points, again, it just puts you on that path to at least that wild card berth. And then we're going to be every match week from here on out, we're going to be watching the scoreboard for the other teams in our range of the table. I
was just going to say I had looked up Dallas's next 4 games. They're home Colorado, at Vancouver, at Salt Lake, home LAFC.
Yep. So everybody cannibalizes each other, and most other teams have very, very tough schedules. Yes. I will say I think Minnesota's got a little bit of a cake schedule. They're playing it's unfortunate that we have already exhausted our Minnesota, our Dallas, our Sporting, our San Jose, and it makes it even more painful that you only got 1 point off St. Louis, right? You only get 4 points off San Jose, which is more than we've ever gotten, but still. And the last thing I wanted to note here, Austin FC now tied with Chicago Fire for most penalties conceded in the league with 7, which coming into the season, we had 14 penalties conceded as a team total. We got 7 with 8 matches to go. Again, I would love to see, I know everybody would, but I think it's imperative that you don't give up another penalty this season. We cannot shoot ourselves in the foot any more than we already have.
100%. I would love to not put Bradley Scott-Stewart in that situation again.
Yep. All right. Well, unless you have anything else to add, let's close it out. How much is Austin FC winning by this Saturday?
I'm going to go ahead and say we take care of business here at home with a 3-1 victory. Right. I don't think we can keep them off the score sheet. I talked about and mentioned and brought up the ways that I thought that we were going to be able to exploit their defensive side of the ball and their formation. And I think that Bukari and Dessler just add a level that some teams can't match. And I don't think that this defensive front for Vancouver can match it. So I hope we see the same lineup. And I think that lineup is a superior one when Brian White is not in the Vancouver 11.
Yeah. I don't think I disagree. I was going to go with that scoreline, but I hate taking the same scoreline as you, so I'm going to just run it back with Zeestradamus from last Saturday. Give me a 2-0 at home.
Okay.
Fuck these dudes. Clean sheet. No Brian White. No goals for you. Another clean sheet for Bradley Scott and the back line. But we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just need the 3 points. Let's keep it pushing here, through the rest of this episode. Let's award our champion.
Hey.
Because we look at the North End Podcast 2024 Leagues Cup Bracket Challenge standings. And who is that? Which Stormtrooper is that at the top? Leagues Cup 4CX is, in fact, our friend Tex Conson Craig. So Tex Conson Craig takes home the Armadillo kit. We're already in communication with our buddy there about getting the address, the sizing, all of that. So congrats, Craig. And I think Tex Constant Craigie making North End podcast history as the first double giveaway winner.
That's 100% what I was going to say. This man is breaking records right now.
So checking on what he had, group stage obviously was successful, but in the knockout, he had the crew winning, taking the whole thing down. So that put our buddy Craig over the top there. Had Club America, LAFC, Columbus, and Cruz Azul in the final, and Columbus taking them home. So appreciate everybody who participated in the bracket challenge this year. It's been fun through the first 2 years. We'll keep growing that thing next year. And congrats to Craig. Hope we get to see him at Q2 with that jersey on here in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. You saw that Columbus news segment talking a little shit?
I saw that it exists. I haven't tried. My blood pressure gets raised by so many different things that I see on the internet every day. I didn't feel like I needed that in my life on Monday, whenever it was. You know, we got our free agent auction going on in 53-man league. We're yelling at all of our friends.
That's right.
I haven't watched it yet. Maybe I'll save that one for like the next time we meet the crew and I need a little bit of extra juice to just, MF those guys on the pod. I'll watch that news segment then.
I like it. It's in the holster.
All right. Well, let's keep it pushing here. And just real quick, we'll check in on
the best keeper in the world.
So, Damian Loss, Louisville City, this past Saturday, I believe, taking on, it was Hartford Athletic, who was near the bottom of that Western Conference, or Eastern Conference, rather, standings, there in USL. 2-1 loss.
Yeah,
actually. And Louisville picking up a 29th minute red card, which did not help their chances, of course, but 8 minutes rather, after that red card, they did go up shorthanded 1-0, end up with the 2-1 loss. But we do have our weekly Damian Loss update from our resident Louisville City fan, Trevor Allison. So shout out to Trevor. He says, Damian update very late because of match overlap. On Saturday, 10-man Louisville City lost 2-1 to Hartford Athletic after a red card in the 29th minute. No one knows what the straight red card was for, not even the team Twitter account or the player it was given. Most of the interaction happened off screen and the announcers were confused too. USL, he says. Everyone suspects it was for dissent that wasn't actually aimed towards the official when said. Louisville City was able to score and take the lead while a man down but couldn't hang on. Damian played well, made some good stops and interventions on corners and crosses. Both goals were scored by the same player in similar situations where he was able to get a body on a center back as a cross came in from the right side and have a pretty clear shot from close in. Damian got a lot more work and action than usual and looked good all around. Box command has improved in the last few weeks. By my eye, the red card might have actually been good for him to get some more reps as he faced a lot more shots than usual. And it was 6 on target, 14 total. And again, we know how good this Louisville City team has been. So there's your Damian Loss update from our buddy Trevor.
That's interesting. As you were finishing up reading that, and I'm listening intently for the report, I was like, damn, I was wondering if this is actually better than Louisville winning 3-0 and, Damian not facing any sort of action here because we're not fucking Louisville fans. We're Damian Loss fans.
Right.
And I want Damian Loss to get as much work as possible. So good on that guy for getting thrown out for doing something nobody seems to know about. What a mystery there. Holy smokes. Probably hit the Jared Allen sack dance.
That winner was scored in the 84th, so they almost did get it over the line. But it helps when you're still on 53 points from your 24 matches played. Still in first in the Eastern Conference, still 2 games in hand on second place, Charleston. Louisville, I think, will manage, and they will start to manage on the road, North Carolina FC, 6:30 p.m. Central here on Saturday. In North Carolina FC, just 2 points above Hartford here in the Eastern Conference standings. So bottom 3 there in the conference. This is a team I think Louisville probably going to be able to bounce back against on the road. But we will be watching. Good luck, Damien.
Absolutely. Good luck.
All right, we can close it out here. No last business day today. We're about 4 hours away from kickoff at the pitch, taking on Loons 2, again, team at the bottom of the Western Conference table in MLS Next Pro. The must-win lever is still in the downward position. It has been pulled. It's stuck for at least another week or two. So we'll be watching that tonight. We will recap that match on Sunday. Let's close it out with a little bit of the nonsense, which returns as the MLS does. Week 27 in the Verde Best Ball League. Of course, we had the transfer window draft early last week. So this is our first look at our new squads. Moon Tower Soccer, 66 points, takes home the dub, jumps up into second place overall. They got 15 points out of John Gallagher. Of course, right? We take we have Sebastian Driussi as our Austin player, and everybody else, of course, has an Austin player, and we did not have the right one, right? Even Osman Bukhari, 8 points. Brad Stuver for Verde All Day, 14 points. Verde Pendant was second on the week, 50 points. So they do keep pace with that top group of 4. Phil just 37 points, but he maintains his lead. He has a 29-point gap between he and Moon Tower in second. Then 6 points down to We Are Austin TV in third. They had 43 points. Verde Pendant with their 50, 19 points back of third place in fourth. Then all the way down to us, 34 points on the week. So 981, 30 for Texas Ring of Fire. So we pick up 4 points in the spoon race. There's an 11-point gap there, 981 to 970. So again, we've got 2 exciting races at the top and the bottom of this table. So headed into this week, there is 1 match tonight. So in best ball, when we have a double game week where there's not enough games on Wednesday to fill out a full game, players from Philly and Columbus will have their best score, again, best ball, their best score of the midweek and the weekend count here in week 28, which will finish up on Sunday. So again, we'll take any advantage we can get over RB and the boys there at Texas Ring of Fire, because, man, Messi's coming back at some point, and I don't feel good about that.
Nope. I was just thinking 11 points is not enough.
Yeah. So good luck to everybody next week. And then again, man, if you've been tailing the picks this year, you've been doing okay. You're up. Yeah. And we took advantage of some tall lines here, some long odds coming out of the transfer window, where, again, I don't think some of these lines have caught up to what these teams look like now. We miss on Charlotte, plus 135 against Red Bull. I believe they got a draw there. Miss on our goal picks of Lucho, Leal Labada, Ezequiel Ponce. Seba doesn't score. Hernan Lopez doesn't score. And, of course, we don't get a brace out of Seba or Bukhari, but we hit on FC Dallas, plus 330 to win on the road. We hit on Austin, plus 220 to win. You get Bukhari, plus 320 to score. Amal Pellegrino, as soon as we drop him from the best ball squad, plus 300. And Ricky Pooch to score or give an assist, minus 125 So plus 5.5 units on the week. We're up to plus 8.56 on the season. And again, week 28 picks will be out on Friday evening after that official injury report drops. But I can tell you right now, Austin FC plus 145, that's going to be locked in here at home. Anything else for you on this nonsense? I will note, Osman Bukhari plus 250 to score will also be in the bets. That's just ridiculous at home.
I like those locks right there.
All right. Anything else for you before we close it down here on episode 170?
Nope. Just can't wait to be at the Q.
Yeah. Excited to see all of you at Q2 Stadium this Saturday, 7:30, taking on Vancouver Whitecaps. And we're excited to see you all back here on Sunday, recapping that match, recapping Austin FC 2's matchup against Minnesota United 2, taking place here on Wednesday night. And, of course, talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. will do the same. And we'll see you back here on Sunday evening. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.